Hello everyone, this is Jagdish Chopre. Welcome you all in the class 3 of React training series. Now in last class, we explored how typical React application executes by exploring the project structure in detail. And along with the same, we also created one header component for displaying our header. Now in this class, we will add CSS stylings in our header component. So let's get started. Now I want to style our app bar in this header component. For the same, first of all, I will add a CSS file in our header folder. So right click on the header folder and then click on new file. And I will add header.css file. And in this CSS file, I will write all my classes. And the same we want to apply to our header and h1 element. The first of all, the title this h1 element is giving is a bit larger for me. So what I will do, I will reduce the header tag. So I will shift to h2 instead of h1. So change it to h2, save the file, and I think this much title is sufficient as we are including this in the app bar. After that, I will have one class, one CSS class for the header where we will define the app bar and one for our h2 which will be our heading. Now here in header.css file, I will start writing one CSS class for the app bar. So here dot app bar, and inside this, first of all, I want to provide a background color. So I will write background color to our theme color, which is blue violet. Save the file. Now I want to attach this CSS class to our header element. Now here, in order to attach this app bar CSS class to our header element in header.jsx file, we need to import the header.css file here in our component. For that, at the very top of our header component file, we will write import statement. Now here, we will provide the path of the header.css file. For that, as the header.css file is available in the same directory of the header.jsx file, I will use dot to represent the current directory, forward slash the name of the file, which is header.css. Now here we need to provide the .css extension, unlike for the JSX file. Now here in the app.jsx file, while importing the header component, we just omitted the .jsx extension. Now that is applicable for the JavaScript and JavaScript XML files only. For all the rest file, we need to provide the extensions, just like the one we provided here for the app.css file. With this, now we can attach the class to the header tag. Now for that, in HTML, we use class keyword for attaching the class, attaching the CSS class. Here I will provide app bar, which is the class we defined here. And for better visibility, what I will do, I will close the Explorer and I will get the CSS header.css in the split view here. So for that, right click on the header.css and then use split right option. And here on the left hand side, we have header.jsx and on the right hand side, we have header.css. We can compare and attach the CSS classes to respective JSX elements respectively. Now after adding the app bar class to the header element, let's save the file using Ctrl S. And here we can see the background color got applied. But here in the console, you will see one error which says invalid DOM property class. Did you mean class name? Now what exactly this error mean? Now here, as I also mentioned in the last class, this is not actually the HTML. This is the JSX, JavaScript XML. That means Here all these tags are internally gets converted into respective JavaScript. Now all this header tag h2 tag gets converted into respective JavaScript. Now here for this header, one JavaScript HTML element get created, and to that this class property gets attached. Now while converting the header tag and h2 tag into respective JavaScript, there is no issue. But when this class property needs to get attached to the header HTML element in the JavaScript, there is an ambiguity happens. That is because class is the reserved word in JavaScript for creating the object oriented classes. Now to overcome this ambiguity, React team decided to use different keyword for providing the CSS classes here in JSX, and that is already mentioned here in this error. And that keyword is the class name. Now here, instead of class, while providing the CSS classes in JSX, we need to use class name. With this, if we save and if we just refresh the browser, we will see that the error is gone. Next, now I got my theme color to my app bar and my app bar is taking shape. But I do have a weird margin here around my app bar and I want to remove it. Now I know that this weird margin is coming from the h2 tag. To cross check that, we can right click on this element and then can click on inspect in the browser. And here in the inspector tool, if we just mouse over on this h2 element, then we can see here at the top and bottom there is a lot of margin available. And the same we can check here in this box model. Now here in this box model, at the very inside, we can see the width and height of actual element, which is h2 in this case. After that, the padding, which is indicated with this light green color, which is 0 from all the side as indicated here. After that, we have border, which is indicated by using this light orange color, which is again 0 here. And at the very outer, we have this margin, which is indicated by using this darkish orange color, which is at the top and bottom. We can see some 19.9 pixel is there. Now this is the default margin of h2 element. Now I want to remove this. For that, I will write another class here targeting the h2. I will name this as my heading tag, and inside this I will override the margin property and I will assign it 0 as a value. Now with this, let's attach this class here by using same class name property and not the class property. Here I will assign heading as a class. With that, save all the files and check that we will see that that extra margin is gone from the h2 tag. Now here we can see there is still some margin available here. Now that margin is actually coming from the body tag. Now here if we just click on the body, here we can see there is again some default margin is applied on the body, which is 8 pixel. And once we mouse over on this body tag, here also in the DOM, we can see that margin is getting highlighted with the respective orange color. Now here if we check, we are already overriding the body in our index.css global file. Now here along with the font family, background color and text align, I will add one more CSS property, which is margin, and I will set it to 0. And once we save this, you will see that margin, the default margin to the body is gone. Next, we can see this Udemy text is getting touched to our app bar at the bottom. I need some padding around my title. For that, here in the heading tag, I will provide some padding. Let's say around 8 pixel, and we got a sufficient healthy padding. With this, we are almost done with the styling of our app bar. But there is still one problem I'm seeing, that this black text for this Udemy is not in a proper contrast with this darker background color. So we need to change it to a bit lighter color so that it will have a sufficient contrast with our darker background. For that, I will set the color to like white. Once we save this, now we can see the Udemy text. The app title is looking nicer and in good contrast with the background. Now, although this is not a CSS tutorial, I would like to highlight couple of CSS rules here. Now here we have these two CSS classes written independently. But here we can also create a hierarchy. Now suppose I want all these CSS properties to be get applied to the element which is having this class heading applied if it is only inside the parent with another element which has the class app bar applied. That means only if heading is the direct child of a parent with the app bar class. If we want that kind of a relationship, then here at the start we can write class app bar space. That means now if any another element in this page is having a class heading, that particular element will not going to get this styles. To prove that, let me just remove this app bar class from this header. So I will cut this and save these files, and you will see the stylings are gone. Even though this h2 is still having this heading class applied. And one another way also of writing the same thing is we can just cut this whole heading tag and we can directly paste it or can write it inside this heading class. Use Shift Alt F to format this. Now with this, if we save and let's get back our app bar class, and we can see all the styles are in place. Now along the same, we can also write the heading class separately here. Now suppose we want to provide couple of stylings to the heading element which are not even following this child parent relationship. For example, suppose we have other heading elements in this page. For those also, we want to provide a couple of styling. For example, I want to have white color to all my heading elements. So for that, we can just cut this color property from this nested heading class to this independent heading class. And now if we save this, nothing will going to change here. But for a demonstration purpose, if now we even remove this app bar class from the header and if we save this, then you will see this color property is getting applied to this heading but not the other one. With this, let me undo and get back the app bar class again. Save everything and we are done with our simple app bar for this application. And this is how we add the CSS classes in our React components. In next class, we will see how to write expressions in JSX. Thank you.